This is Brownie's Podcast!
Sweet baby Jesus. Degenerates, hello, let's relive it.
Wiedering the all or nothing to Hollands. Hollands is going to make it outside. He's got another opportunity on here. The kick wasn't great to Doherty. Doherty falls back in line. Takes a bounce. 55 metres out. Who's going to get this? Up they fly. Mark taken. Akers runs, plays on. Has he kicked the goal? He has. Akers has started the game. He wins all the time. He doesn't miss. The Blues are back in front by a point. Goodness gracious, can you believe it? Can you believe it?
We are the Navy Blues.
John, tell me what you witnessed at the G.
It was astonishing. The loudest I've ever seen at the MCG, ever been a part of. Obviously, you're fortunate enough that we played in Grannies, but you don't really have an awareness of the crowd. The loudest I ever heard, and I never thought it'd be top, was the 2017 prelim final when Richmond beat GWS on the fact that there was about 93,000 Richmond supporters and not many GWS. That topped it on Friday night, though. When Akers kicked that goal and then the siren went and they launched into the Navy Blues theme song, it was, you could feel the stadium rattling. Yeah, the Shane Warne stand, the member stand, you could just feel it rattling. It was unbelievable.
Dog, what if you missed that?
He very nearly did miss it. He nearly slammed it into the post. They say that in the second quarter of the 2017 preliminary final, when Daniel Rioli kicked a goal, it registered 125 decibels recorded.
Yep.
This one was louder.
No shit.
Yes.
It was louder.
How many decibels are we talking?
Close to 130.
You made that up, didn't
Just
you?
made that shit up. It was just a great event to be at, and I guess it had everything because it looked as if like halfway through the last quarter, Carlton were out on their feet, and you just thought, they're not going to be able to do it, and the game just sort of stayed quick late, and Melbourne lacked composure late, and obviously they had some bad misses. Maxi hit the post. Cozzy, Fritz.
Bailey Fritz again, second week in a row in a big moment.
Yeah, they've had in the two finals, I think they've had 57 shots a goal compared to their opposition. They've had 31 shots a goal.
Brother.
Last week they lose by 2 points.
Yeah.
This week they lose by a point.
Got to kick 'em.
You've got to kick them, and their field kicking was ordinary as well. So that ultimately cost them. But you just felt the wave. Just something was starting to happen with Carlton late. When they just got back in, they all of a sudden got energised in that last 2 or 3 minutes, and they were able to come over the top of them.
I love finals footy because it elevates players to different levels, doesn't it? And Sam Walsh, absolute gun. He was the best man on the ground. But it also brings out opportunities for players to do things, inspirational things, right? Sam Doherty, he's gone through multiple knee issues. He's obviously had the testicular cancer. He's been the captain of that footy club. Dislocates his shoulder, comes back on, strapped up, would have been in a lot of pain. He's the man that delivers it to Blake Akers. Stories like that. De Koning, who was playing VFL footy in the middle of the year, halfway through the first quarter, he took the ball out of the ruck and kicked it the wrong way.
No shit.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But then composed himself to kick those 2 goals back-to-back in that first quarter, which kept Carlton in it. I love those stories about the players.
Would there be teams out there regretting De Koning allowing him to stay available for Carlton, to sort of turn him around and convince him that he could stay? Because I feel as if some other teams had have gone harder, they would have been able to get Tom De Koning. And now we look back in hindsight and you go, geez, there was a good opportunity there to steal away a good young player.
I think Robbie D'Orazio, who manages him, he signed a dotted line 6 weeks ago, Dino.
Yeah.
He might, if he'd have held off until, now... The market price might have just gone up.
But he was there for the taking for some other clubs.
Hey, Wiedering had nuts switching it. He went across.
Well,
we had to.
That was it. That was the play.
That could have gone tits up. And then the kick to Doherty.
Yeah, it was set up a little bit high. And
just a bit.
And McVie. For Melbourne. So we're always taught, right? Ball or body. If you can't take the ball, you take the body.
Yep.
If he does that, he's just a young player. He will learn. Doherty can't then play on quickly. There's all these little moments that we analyse to death in the media and everything. But it was just a brilliant win.
What the was with the creepy it clown in the audience.
Well, that was crazy.
Did you
wasn't
see, you saw it, man?
Did
you see it?
That was on our Insta.
It reminded me of
put that up on our
remember
Insta.
that movie when you're a kid, It?
Yes,
used
man.
to come out of the sewer?
Yeah.
Well, it's the exact new it clown, isn't it, Beck?
Yeah, it's Pennywise.
Pennywise.
Yeah, that's the name.
Is he?
Yeah,
Is
man.
Pennywise going to be at the Gabba on Saturday night?
He'll be there. Oh,
Flying up.
mate, you don't get dressed up as a clown and not go into state.
They've got to be there. I loved. It was interesting. Just I know we don't get too technical on this podcast, but last year Carlton lost a lot of close games late in the year, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they've spoken about they'd done this scenario training and situation training late in games to help them this year. Now this year they've had I think 7 games decided by less than 12 points. They've won them all.
Yeah.
I think they've won them all. I may have lost one of them. Now, late in the game, Blake Acres, he ends up in the forward line, the goal square, because he runs forward, actually ahead of the ball when Wiedering turns the ball over. Carlton has 5 forwards, and the D's only have 4 defenders. So they've obviously worked on that. There's no need for Acres to run back in
Nah,
defence,
you
is
can
there?
roll the
What's
dice.
the point? You've got to roll the dice and win the game.
Yeah.
So he just takes off forward, whereas his Melbourne opponent just keeps following the ball. And all of a sudden, Acres ends up in the goal square on his own.
Yeah.
So that's scenario situation training that obviously they've spent the summer doing that, and it comes to fruition, and then the right decisions get made at the time. So kudos to him.
I'll
see
say
Robbie-
this though,
yeah.
they're banged up. They're so sore. Cripper's sore.
Yeah.
Acres, Doherty. They've got Wiedering sore. Right, they'll go up to Brisbane on Saturday night against the Lions at the Gabba and get absolutely smashed.
Oh, jeez.
They will. No, they will. I don't want to.
And
Wash
it's
your
all
mouth
right.
out.
No.
Wash your mouth out.
But that's all right if that happens.
It's a huge win for the club. Now, they've won a couple of finals. They've re-signed Vossi. They've got some optimism going into next year. They've tasted final success. It'll be a
But I
great
think that's
result.
what Vossi's. Vossi rang me during the week. I was on the ladder painting, actually, and we had a good old chat for about half an hour. I said, what's that noise in the background? So, mate, I'm painting the cornices. But he was... I guess he was a little bit concerned because he's a competitor. He wants to go all the way and win. He mentioned that he was slightly concerned after their win against who'd they beat last week? Sydney. After they beat Sydney, that there was some contentment. He was hoping the group and the whole club wasn't content with just, we won a final.
Yeah.
Obviously, they showed that they weren't just content, but I guess that's the challenge again this week. Are you just content with the massive win at the MCG on Friday night, then a bit of a letdown? You know, you go to the Gabba and, if we get beaten, we can hold our head up about this season.
So-
I think Vossi, that's his greatest challenge, apart from the injuries, is just to convince them, hey, boys, no, we've got to reset and go again, because we can beat Brisbane. You know, they've had failed history in the prelims finals the last few years.
And 2 games in a month, you know, obviously the bye, the win, the bye, and against a battle-hardened
Yep.
side that's
You use all those things.
played every minute of the 4 quarters because they've had to come from behind and win, and you use all that.
That's-
Man, Blues fans straight to Lyon Street after. It was all over the place.
It was interesting you say that, the Blues fans. I saw one firsthand because I took my daughter Olivia, took Liv and her best mate Chloe. They sat with us on the stage as part of the Fox Footy production there. So pretty handy. See, on the Meatloaf stage.
Yeah, man.
So we sat there for the game, and mate, halfway through the last quarter, the last 10 or 15 minutes, the abuse that Gaz copped, Gary
Oh,
Lyon
shit.
copped from the Blues supporters.
By the way, Gaz was very good straight after the game. He was on air. He looked not rattled. Very congratulatory to Carlton.
You gotta
'Cause
be
I was
impartial.
wondering. You got to be, but I
He was
wondering-
seething.
Was
He was absolutely seething. Don't worry, it's steam coming out his ears. And part of it was because all these Carlton supporters, because the stage is in amongst the crowd.
Just
there.
being cockheads.
So, mate, they were absolutely loading up on him. It was hilarious.
Anything
And then-
inappropriate,
and then-
or-
well, there was something inappropriate for my 13-year-old daughter, Olivia. So, obviously, siren goes.
Poor
They're
Gaz.
singing the Navy Blues song. They sing the first couple of renditions of it. Then
no.
Liv turns around. She's in full Carlton gear, and she's got a Carlton flag in her hand, and then she hands the Carlton flag to Gaz and goes, do you want to take this home with you, Gaz?
She's heckling Gaz.
Gaz goes, read the room, Olivia Brown. She's the Carlton Nuffy.
4 finals they've lost in a row.
Yeah.
When next year they might not be competitive.
They're not guaranteed. You never guarantee because you win a flag that 1 year that you'll go on and do it again and again and again. That's what makes Brisbane's three-peat and Hawthorn's three-peat so bloody good, right? Because Melbourne have an unbelievable list.
Yeah.
Their squad is amazing. If they finish their era, and it's not over just yet, there's still another couple of seasons to
But
go.
get a wriggle on.
With
Fucking
one
hell.
premiership. And if you want to be a bit of a smart ass, you could say what was the COVID premiership where the quarters were shortened, the season was shortened. And
Yeah, but they were the best team.
They were, but do you know what I mean? Like there'll be people out there saying, "Oh, they
Spot
won
on.
one premiership."
That'd be dicks.
There's no guarantee that Angus Brayshaw will play again.
Man.
You know, guys like Clary Oliver and Stephen May and their guns are getting a little bit older. You know,
Gone his 30s.
So-
His 30s.
you're right. They need, you know, if they want to be a great side, they need to win another flag.
I always think that it's hard, though, if you get affected in one area of the ground heavily by injury and suspension, which they did obviously with Van Ryan's suspension and the Petty injury and the Malcolm injury, that makes it really difficult. You know, we saw with Geelong this year, all their defenders were injured at the start of the year. Then their midfielders were injured in the middle of the year. They just couldn't get a run on it. I feel as if Melbourne were the most affected team in the run into the finals.
Especially in their weakest part of the ground.
Absolutely. And then the other question mark is you go, geez, a guy, Brodie Grundy, and this is not about how much money he's on, but he's on $600,000-700,000. But you're going to play Josh Shackey and sit him on the bench for the whole game. Yet Carlton have young Hollands who come on and played a really important role as a runner that last quarter. But yeah, you got Josh Shackey sits there for the whole game.
nothing.
You go, well, if you're going to do that, you might as well have brought in Brodie Grundy because Max Gawn was the only one that looked like taking a mark and looked the most dangerous forward.
Yep.
That you could have pulled that string late and gone Grundy into the ruck, Maxi forward just to try and get a goal. So
It was an interesting choice of sub, like Josh Shackey, who's a forward, but he wasn't playing great footy to get in the side. He couldn't get a kick down.
Play a runner. If you don't want to play Grundy, play a Taj Woden or one of the other younger fellas there or one of the better runners. It was just a strange coaching move.
Question for both of you. Are you jealous that David King's a better pundit than both of you?
Yeah. Well, we don't get to wear the lab coat.
Yeah, that's right. I only bring out. I'm not a stats guy until I come on here and become the stat man.
You're the stat man!
I'm a stat man for 1 hour a week here. He's a stat man 24 hours a day, 365 days a
He
year.
lives it. He
What
eats
Kingy,
it.
what
breathes
Kingy
it.
does that you mother don't do on the couch. You don't have receipts.
Yeah.
Kingy's got receipts.
Yeah.
He'll say something
fair point.
and then back it up with hard data.
Yeah, and then
one of the
then
things
keep
was-
it for 6 or 7 weeks, right? And then when that hard data becomes factual, bang,
That's what he does.
He brings it back out.
But what he did point out that Maxi is never in the throw-ins, in the stoppages. He hangs around half forward for when it slingshots back out, and that's not good.
Well,
You've just blown my mind.
what does that mean?
I don't know.
What does that mean? I love it. You got anything else?
No. That's it.
That's it.
That is fantastic.
You come locked and
I'm
loaded
a
tonight.
junior stat man.
It's a big weekend of preparation for Dino.
Yeah,
I love it, Dino.
No, he had a point, but I can't remember it.
They needed 2 Max Gawns out there, didn't they?
Yes!
But they sort of did because they had Brodie Grundy who could play in the ruck. So it was just an interesting observation. I know Goody will cop a fair bit of flack for that, but it was a big win. It was just great to be there. One of the great sporting events, no question about it.
It's good, Adelaide and Port. I think we all suspected GWS were going to do this.
Yeah.
They're a very good side. Right across the board, their defence is unbelievable. We always bang on about Sam Taylor. You've also got Jack Buckley down there that can just hold his own against any forward. Their midfield, mate, Stephen Caniglio is having a career best season. You throw Tom Green in there.
Tom Green's
you throw
amazing.
Josh Kelly that's
Callum
playing
Ward's
great
had
footy.
a great year.
Cal Ward sort of returned from the dead because a lot of people thought he might be gone a year or two ago. And the quick delivery into the forward line, like Jesse Hogan, mate, he's playing
He's
great
played his
footy.
potential now.
And he's getting so much space. Their connection between when to lead and where to lead. And
And he gets one out because Toby Green's there. Everyone's
Correct.
worried about Toby Green.
they're a very good side, mate, and they absolutely can beat Collingwood.
It feels like they're fearless because no one is rating them in the football world.
They're
We're
well
not
coached.
talking
Yeah, it's a good point because you're trying to look at their opposition. So I thought St Kilda were poor in the first half last week. I thought a couple jumped out of the way. I thought they were a bit soft in fact. So that was a bit of a bit of a live kill there for GWS last week. And then if you actually look at Port's form line in the last 10 weeks, they're a top 8 team at best.
Yeah.
They're a middling team, no question about it. They just did all their damage at the start of the year to get that top 4 slot. So You wonder about the opposition the GWS have come up against. Now, I've got no doubts their game style is magnificent. They've got plenty of stars around the field. But going against Collingwood at the MCG, rested with Nick Dacos back in, I think that's a step up in class from the previous two opposition.
The Fly, I don't know if he listens to this podcast. I assume he does. But if he doesn't send Beau McCreery to Lockie Whitfield on the half-back flank and run a hard defensive forward tag on him, he's got rocks in his head, because Lockie Whitfield the last 2 weeks has sliced and diced. He had over 30 touches against Saints and set him up beautifully with his kicks into the corridor. He had 33 again Saturday night. Was unbelievable. So, Fly, if you're listening, that's the matchup, mate. That is the matchup.
What about Maynard to Toby Green? Does he go for that?
Well, that's another one, because I think that Kenny Hinkley got the matchup wrong on Toby Green on Saturday night. He sent Ryan Burton to him, right?
That's been all right last few weeks. He played on Charlie Cameron the week before, though, and did not a bad job.
He played him from in front, right? And when you do that on a really smart forward like Toby Green, who could sneak out the back, he kicked 2 goals and had a third shot on quarter time. Nearly kicked 3 goals in the first quarter because he got caught watching the footy in front of him. Yep. So, Maynard might be the guy, but you've got to get that matchup right. 2
guys that have almost revolutionised the game this year. Brett Daniels, apart from Lance Windle, Brett Daniels and Toby Bedford. These high half forwards for the Giants, it is unbelievable. They go up high, all the way up the field. They go into stoppages. Now, we know Daniels been a good player, but Toby Bedford didn't get much opportunity at Melbourne. So, did they not realise what they had? They let him go for more opportunity and gone up there. They've just been unbelievable. So what Collingwood can do to play on that, or to stop those 2 guys, will go a long way towards winning the game. But tell you what, Toby Bedford, he's got a bit of momentum, especially when you've got a mum, the main cheerleader, like she was post-game, Dino.
Well, you need a good hype person, don't you?
Took the rooms by storm on Saturday night over there at Adelaide Oval.
Listen to how Eddie Betts facilitates this. It's masterful.
We got Mum over here too. How are you? You proud of your son?
I could not be prouder. I am just like Giants. The Green Army's coming.
The Orange Army.
The Orange Army better watch out. You know what? I say green. Orange Army better watch out, because
against Collingwood next Friday night at the MCG.
Collingwood are quaking because the earth is shaking because the home is to the Giants.
Okay, so how many tickets you up from your son? How many tickets you going to ask for Toby at the MCG against Collingwood Friday night?
Whatever it needs to take, because we got a big family. My kid comes from the Kimberleys. My kid comes from Fitzroy Crossing. Yeah. Fitzroy Crossing is a special town. It's in the central Kimberley. We're in between Kununurra and Broome. Yeah. You know, Betsy. We mean a lot. Like my in-laws, the Bedfords, the Greens. We're a big family, and like what my kid is doing for our family, it's sensational.
And you should be really proud of him too. He's an absolute superstar, and he's dominating this season. So well done, man, and good luck for next week.
Toby Bedford's mum.
Love it.
What a legend.
She did a Jonathan Brown. She mixed 2 words together.
She did, man.
Sensational. So inspiring, inspirational, and sensational.
Let's have a listen. Let's go back to the tape.
It's sensational.
He is great, and I love the bit about it. Collingwood will be quaking in their boots. If Craig McRae doesn't use that as motivation for his boys before they run out of the MCG Friday night, he doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, let's ask John, how good were GWS?
Magnificent.
And now Mrs. Bedford?
It's sensational.
It's sensational.
That was brilliant. I love the fact that clubs now and in the rooms after the games, it used to be quite a sterile place.
Yeah, it did.
You'd come in, you'd sing the song, everyone would be behind a cage or a pulled net. Girlfriends, family members were not allowed to come in and socialise, But now, it's great that clubs integrate family, friends. You can get in it.
Sort of the orgy tent at Burning Man now.
A little bit, which is only a good thing because we get great moments like that, and you get to actually see your mates after a win.
All right, what do you reckon? Gil would wake up in a sweat most nights in in a fever dream that come grand final time, it's going to be GWS versus Brisbane.
Oh, no.
That's not crazy at this point.
No, it's not.
They'd be happy with Collingwood versus Carlton.
Oh,
obviously.
yeah.
Or imagine what the grand final tickets will go for. You'll make a fortune, dog. Or Collingwood Brisbane. They'd be happy with those.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, even though GWS is the AFL's team, I'm not sure they'd be wrapped with Brisbane GWS.
They'd love it for the expansion. And they'd love it for, a truly Australian competition but for their bottom line, which is what they absolutely love.
Yeah.
It'd be a
I'm
disaster.
not sure they'd get the capacity.
Nah, there
for
would be
the grand
95,000 there.
You don't reckon?
Nah, mate.
Don't know, they would be, yeah. Geez, the Port Adelaide crowd was disappointing on the weekend. They were well below and they left for the exits
what's
early.
that about?
Yeah, disappointing. So,
On the Port fans, so on their social media account, there's two strings of sentiment. Re-sign Boak or we'll walk. That's
Yeah.
what they're all saying. If you delist Boak, we will riot. And a lot of anti-Ken sentiment.
well,
We
like
just
to
signed another
re-sign
couple
him
of
too
years.
early.
So Hamo24 reckons another year without reaching a granny under Ken Hinkley, but you keep rewarding him with extensions. On your coshy, you bonehead.
Port Adelaide supporters need to worry about turning up to the game. Always on the weekend, they could have brought the old banners out. Remember that at Footy Park a few years back when Port couldn't get many people to turn up, so they put these massive banners
No shit.
on the grandstand seats.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
embarrassing. To make it look,
absolutely.
busy. You should never. So good footy clubs never allow sentiment or fans to dictate list management decisions. We all love Travis Boak. He's been an absolute superstar for that side for 15 years, but they can't take into the fact that the fans will riot. If you don't re-sign Travis Boak, because quite seriously,
Nah.
his form the last sort of 10 weeks has been underwhelming. He's got a very high level. That he's been the sub a few times, and I'm sure if he wants to play on, they need to take that decision out of his hand.
Well, I think good clubs here have shown in Australia they hold firm. Look at Carlton this year. There was calls for Michael Voss to be sacked, wasn't there? And Brian Cook and that administration there at Carlton, they held firm, and now they're into a prelim final. So your original question, Dino, GWS Brisbane, it's a real possibility because Brisbane's going to be tough to beat, and I think it's reasonably even that Collingwood GWS game on Friday night because the Giants have got the game, no question about it.
They got nothing to lose. Ads back in a circuit.
This is Brownie's Podcast!
Welcome back to Brownie's Podcast. Now, what did you send us all in our WhatsApp thread, John?
There was an interesting article over the weekend about a little known band called Trial by Video back in the late 90s, and they gained their stardom through being full of ex-AFL footballers. Tony Woods.
Great on the
as well.
piano, the pianist.
Great on the piano. Brendan Gale.
Oh, Benny.
On the guitar.
Yep.
James Manson,
Yes.
Premiership ruckman for Collingwood. He went on and played for Fitzroy. He was on the guitar as well. Paul Bullis on the drums.
Oh yeah, big with the long hair for
Absolutely.
the
Were they
Tigers.
playing while the band was together, or had they retired?
No, they were still playing.
Shit.
They were current players. Tony Woods, who was magnificent on the piano, and none other than the great Alan Jakovic, the lead singer.
Vocals.
The vocals. I could not believe that. So, Tony Woods, a great mate of ours, he's climbing a mountain in Argentina
He
with
is.
you, Brown Dog.
Yeah.
His girl Sal looks after us here on the podcast as well.
I wear his jumper number.
Did you?
30.
Number
Yeah, I
30.
started my career on
Did too.
32, and he whispered a few things in my ear. He might even tell the story, and I changed to number 30.
Now, Trial by Video was huge. It was the first. It was the original footy show band back in the 90s.
What?
And they went on to play in front of more than 50,000 people
At once?
the MCG.
Because there was a game on.
No, there was no game on.
Bullshit.
Let's get him on the phone, Tony
The
Woods,
great Woganowski.
just to go for a little deep dive on Trial by Video.
Now, this is a man that went to a Tibetan monastery and didn't speak for a month. So hopefully he's not going through one of those phases.
Woganowski, you son of a bitch. Welcome to Brownie's Podcast.
I feel very privileged, honoured, all the jargon. It's what do they say? First time listener, first time caller.
That'll do.
It's sensational.
It's sensational.
Close enough, Woodsy. Now, Woodsy, this is an unbelievable article. I'd completely forgotten about Trial by Video back in the early 90s. A band of yourself and a few other current footballers.
Well, currents are very, very. That's poetic license, Brownie, and I can't believe that you've forgotten about us because I'm sure we're an entrance in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at some stage. At least in our own minds.
Uzi, were you guys doing covers, or did you have your own original tunes?
Oh, we had to give the audience what they were after, and so when they heard an attempt at an original, they did a mass walkout.
Who was the catalyst that put this band together, Woogie?
There's the original producer of the Footy Show, Harvey Silver, and I'm a bit vague on the details. You know, as we all get a bit older and greyer, I can't think of the timeline, but. Yeah, he sort of rang around and had an idea that he'd spin something up for a Friday night pre-grand final edition, because the Thursday night Footy Show hadn't existed up to that stage. So he rang around and put this motley crew of musos together, and the icing on the cake was somehow managed to convince Alan Jakovic to be the front man.
Now,
strong choice.
There's been some big frontmen over the journey. You think of Michael Hutchins,
Mick Jagger,
Axl Rose,
Meatloaf.
our mate Eddie Vedder, Meatloaf. Where did he rate? Because I feel as he had a similar sort of charisma to those blokes I mentioned.
Oh, mate, he was extraordinary. And I'd be fair to say he was a better footballer than he was singer. But what he lacked in vocal ability, he certainly overcompensated for flair. And so if you remember Jakovic on the field, he was enigmatic, extraordinary, flamboyant, unpredictable. And he was every bit that plus a whole lot more once he kind of got behind a microphone. So he was extraordinary. But in saying that, like every good rock and roll lead singer, the kind of the fame and glory went to his head, and so over time we had to end up sacking him. So
you sacked Alan Jakovic.
Look, that can't be true.
Well, we had to run an intervention, because it was just one of those ones where there was this meteoric rise, and we went from kind of like moonlighting on the grand final or pre-grand final episode of the Footy Show to getting signed by Premier Artists, which was an offshoot of Gudinski. We then had a manager, and then we found ourselves getting booked to play gigs around Melbourne. Paid gigs where the punters were paying to come and listen to us, which is extraordinary in itself. But it come to call time, it'd be 10 p.m. and we're all ready to go on, and we couldn't find Jakovic. And it could have been off a lazy 10 that he kicked that afternoon at the MCG, but he was nowhere to be found. And then they were just pulling down the walls, and then somewhere between 10:30 and 11:30 he'd swan in wearing a fur jacket and a very, very solid entourage by then.
Hold on, pause. A fur jacket.
No, it was. That's how I remember it. It was just because he was a good-looking rooster. You only got to look at some of the Men for All Seasons calendar shoots he did.
Correct, and there's
I reckon he had you covered, dog.
Hey, Woodsy, is it true that you disbanded because you got in a pub brawl at a gig in Mandurah in WA?
Crab country.
While they were on stage, they entered. What happened? They entered the crowd mid-song.
Mate, whoever does your research is unbelievable, Browny.
Champion data do it for us.
Kingy does.
Did a 3-week tour of Perth and country Perth, and ended up at a pub in Mandurah, and they pre-promoted, and we kind of got on, and it was pumping. It was but it was a scene like we reminiscent of that great scene from Roadhouse.
Oh yes,
where the short version is we were 3 or 4, 5 songs into the set, and there was a bloke front and centre, and there might have been 500 or 800 or something in his packed pub. Who was heckling Zanots.
At this stage, Mark Zanotti was the lead singer, so you replaced Alan Jakovic with Mark Zanotti.
Jesus.
He was equally a fantastic frontman. But anyway, this guy was heckling. And so as we kind of like playing, we're seeing Zanots kind of lean further and further out to the crowd, trying to get him within reach, this bloke, and he couldn't quite get him. And then this bloke made 2 mistakes. First, he forgot that we were footballers first, and musicians secondly. And secondly, he threw a half-drunk bourbon over Jimmy Manson's guitar. Well, that was on.
She was on.
Shit.
It was on. So Jimmy threw his guitar down, jumped into the audience. Zanot's great friend and teammate of Jimmy jumped in after him. Benny Gale was he was sort of our cardboard cutout that we pushed forward for one song, and so he kind of jumped in. Jimmy's brother, who was playing bass, jumped in and was like, well, I better jump in here. And then Bully was just sitting at the back, just keeping the beat. Anyway, security came and everything. And anyway, and then finally it was sort of separated and whatever. And the said person was escorted or carried out, one of the two, I can't remember. And we slowly but surely, one by one, made our way back on stage and picked up our instruments and joined in the beat of Bully, and the rest is history. I reckon if Kiss can play the grand final, Tribe Video can.
Agreed.
Thanks, Woodsy.
Amazing. Thanks, Woodsy. Back in those days, at that stage in '93, there'd been 4 bands that had played in front of more than 50,000 people at the MCG. Madonna, U2, Paul McCartney, and Trial by Video. But they... the opening of the World Police and Fire Games, they were booked as the band at the MCG.
Change of pace.
Yeah.
Sad news over the weekend.
Very sad. The passing of not one but 2 icons of football. First, Ronald Dale Barassi, who's an absolute legend. We bandy that word around a lot, but
proper legend.
10 premiership, 6 as a player and 4 as a coach.
Well, he's one of the original legends in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Cowboy Neil,
former South Warrnambool legend. I was often reminded by Alan Jeans when I would see him that he said, "You're the second best footballer to come out of South Warrnambool, son." I said, it was the best. He said, Cowboy Neil. Kevin Cowboy Neil played in the 1966 flag, that one solitary flag for St Kilda, and Yabby Jeans was the coach. And I, a few times, was able to have a couple of beers on the hill with the great man, Cowboy Neil. But you say he was an absolute legend. But Ron Barassi, I think I may have met him once, Brown Dog, but geez, I would have loved to have met him. You're reading the stories in the papers and just talking to Gary Lyon today, Gaz said he was his first coach at Melbourne, which I didn't realise. So Gaz is 16 years old. Could you imagine this? As a 16-year-old, and you're there, and your coach is a 10-time premiership legend, 6 as a player, 4 as a coach. Jesus. And Gaz, he's 16, couldn't get out to pre-season training, so he would have to go into Jollymont, where the ground was, where the officers are based, and get a lift out to pre-season training with the great Ronald Dale Barassi.
How good's that?
What? Brass would pick him up.
Brass would pick him up and drive him out to training at Dendy Park.
That's lovely.
And I said to Gaz, what sort of car was he? He said, I don't know, it was a big old bastard.
There's a bit of a push, and I think it'd be quite a nice sentiment. At the moment, the Premiership Cup is just called the AFL Premiership Cup.
It is.
There's talk that they might name it, the Ron Barassi Cup, which over in US, it's the Lombardi Trophy, and
I agree.
Other trophies are named after legends of the sport, and it's
I think it'd be
name
nice.
everything else.
I think it'd be a lovely touch. 10 times as a player and a coach, just quite unbelievable, isn't it? So the Barassi Trophy would be astonishing. He's a legend of the game. He's got his statue out the front of Gate 4 there at the MCG. He's been there for a long time. He's Victorian of the Year. Yeah. Of course, when he took on the lady was getting attacked. What? He was 72 years old.
What? 72?
And Barassi jumped in to defend this lady.
Down
Fitzroy Street.
No, spear tackled a guy.
Yeah. He was 72 years old and got awarded the Victorian of the Year after that.
Yeah, so that was 15 years ago.
Amazing effort.
That's amazing.
I've got another one for you as well. I didn't realise. So there was huge, seismic, it's been described as, when Ronald Dale left Melbourne to go and play for Carlton. He had played about 200 games. He was a 6-time premiership legend there. Went to Carlton, and he was to become captain coach of Carlton. Now, I didn't realise the 1968 premiership, he was captain coach, so still a player.
Yeah.
He got dropped a month out from the grand final.
He dropped himself.
He got dropped by the selectors, because back in those days, there was the team of selectors. Ronald Dale got dropped.
What? Really?
Yeah, and then so he continued on as the coach.
Wow.
But didn't get a game in the grand final, the 1968 grand final, where he coached Carlton to the premiership.
What? And he wasn't part of it. He was obviously the coach, but...
he wasn't out there as a player. So he coached 2 at Carlton, and then he went on to coach 2 at North Melbourne, including the first one that North ever won in their history in 75, and of course that famous 77 grand final where it was a replayed grand final. An amazing history. Then he went to Melbourne, and then he went to Sydney.
Yeah.
And he was a catalyst for a change in culture and change in standards up in Sydney when they were shithouse in the early 90s and looked as if they may have had to move or may have gone out of business.
Did Mel know him, do you reckon?
Yeah, Mel knew him, absolutely. The old Van Sang luncheons and the Carbine Club luncheons and all those sort of things. Yeah, you knew him. I didn't get a chance to speak to him over the last 24 hours to see, what stories or anything he had. But, we've lost the champion of the game, which is, it's never good.
Ads, back in a second. Varley.
This is Brownies Podcast.
Welcome back, Brownies. Hey, did Daniel Rich retire?
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago, yeah.
Oh, I just saw the footage.
He's still available to play, but he won't get a game.
Oh, I just saw him walking off a local footy.
Yeah.
Avalon Airport Oval. It's not local, it's VFL, mate.
I hope that was on air. Was that recording, Dana? Please tell me that was recording.
Yeah, man. It's all in there. Oh, my
You're going to
God.
have to work that in beautifully.
So that's what the VFL looks like, brother. Jesus Christ. No, congrats to Daniel Rich.
Yeah, what a great career he's had. Yeah, he's still available for selection.
There'd be
but I'd surprised
shades
if
of
he gets a
Nathan
game.
Jones about it. Like, the side, if they do make it through to a grand final, he's played 285 games off the top of my head, been there forever, and just the back end of his career gets some injuries and some
It's good
form.
enough for the great Ronald Dale Barassi
Well,
to
I
get
suppose.
dropped when he's actually the captain of the club.
John, true or false? One of the greatest low stab kicks.
Oh, absolutely. I was fortunate enough to be on the end of him. He was drafted in 09, was the rising star in 09, played the final.
I'm glad you kept going with that because he said I was lucky enough to be on the end of him.
He was. They're a close bunch. It's
very tight.
It's Burning Man again.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I feel like I've just walked into that tent.
It's really nice. It's really nice. Time for
What a World. Now, I have to give a big shout out to Daniel Cripps, who not only sent me this, but he sent it to Brownie's WhatsApp.
Okay.
He sent it also to the Instagram page because he deemed that I needed to say it. And once I read the article, this is the greatest What a World
You
I've
look
ever
excited.
heard in my life.
Normally with
Jeez,
What a
up and
World,
about.
he limps in sometimes when he doesn't believe in the story, but today he is confident.
So there's a lady, a 26-year-old lady called Alicia Franklin. Now, she is very, very smart. She's in the IQ Society of Mensa, and they did a score on her a few years ago. And she's got 154, which was back in September of 2015, right? Which is extremely high.
Anything over 130 is pretty high, isn't it?
Yep. She wanted to improve, as we do every day. You want to, make sure that you're going forward in life.
Yeah.
And she was always looking for ways to improve her intelligence.
Okay.
And she found a way that she thought, she was starting to feel more intelligent.
What, this actively made her more intelligent, this method?
Yes.
Like more reading?
So
Listening to podcasts?
No, it wasn't reading. No, it's not podcasts.
Spinach?
Not spinach.
Watching old episodes of Sale of the Century.
No, none of that, right? So she got retested.
That will work though, John.
She got retested recently and she went up IQ-wise 65% from 154, right, to 220.
Okay.
What?
Which makes her
Off the charts.
smarter than Stephen Hawking,
Wow.
Albert Einstein, and Leonardo da Vinci. It places her amongst the most intelligent human beings ever recorded on this planet of 8 billion people.
Wow.
Thanks to one change she made.
Yes. She, daily, to improve her IQ,
Yes?
started to ingest
Yes?
a dose
Yes?
of freshly squeezed
Lemons.
sperm.
Oh.
She would drink semen
Okay.
every single day, and it has improved her cognitive intelligence, her perception, and her memory all went through the roof.
It's sensational.
What a world!
What would BT say about that?
Yeah, so it's all right, Bristle.
What? Freshly squeezed.
Freshly
Did you have to go with the
semen.
wording freshly squeezed?
Well, that wasn't part of the article. I added that.
So,
But a daily dose
Okay.
of fresh sperm, they said. But I thought that was a bit nicer. Freshly squeezed semen.
So there's
like
things like-
orange, like
Remember
I
there's-
get it. No,
There's
thank you
things
for
like
the...
colostrum and
Thank
all
you.
that where you could get, which was essentially the milk from a cow, when she just calved.
Yeah.
So is this a similar situation? Like you can buy these products?
So her IQ's gone through the roof, and that's what they've put it down to. So what a world! And if you ever want to go out there and you've got your exams coming up, or you've got a university degree,
All right, Bristol, settle down.
Oh no!
I know, mate. I know. Hey, degenerates, we'll see you.
What a way
on
to end the
Friday.
show!
What a world! I can't believe it. Thank you, Daniel Cripps.
See ya.